screen share. Okay, well, welcome everyone. This is our annual Kick the Sick webinar, and this is the season. We are seeing a lot of our families coming in, some of which, feel like they've hit a milestone because they haven't gotten sick yet this year, or maybe they are kicking it a lot quicker than they typically have in the past, and not sure, what your story is when it comes to the cycle of sick. Maybe some of you have kids where there's been a year or a season where it's just nothing but constant, like green gook in the eyes, the sore throat, the cough that doesn't seem to go away or resolve. Maybe it's chronic ear infections, allergies, asthma, all of the things. And it can really put a damper on enjoying this time of year. We've been really lucky with the weather, which has allowed for a lot of outdoor activities, everything from the pumpkin patches and apple orchards and so on, and Halloween. And the last thing that we want is to have to cancel plans or feel like we're making these late night stops, to the pharmacy, the drugstore, all of the things. So there's a reason why you're here. Some of you just want to be proactive and really just support your kid's immune system and maybe yourself. For others, maybe you've been on the struggle bus for a while and you have been on different rounds of antibiotics, or maybe you've gone the natural route and you're taking all the supplements all the time, more of that outside in approach. So we are looking to, one, just give you hope and you break down the science a little bit of the immune system, how it operates. So with that knowledge, you'll have more peace of mind knowing what is normal and what we should be supporting versus suppressing. So as many of you may know, we see a lot of children in our office, a lot of families, and it's one of the best jobs in the entire world because we love to see our families not just adapting to the seasons, but just thriving in life in general. So we are going to get right to it, and I'll have Dr. Carrie take it away.
All right. So we have this kind of concept in our society that when we're sick, we're not necessarily healthy. So looking at these pictures, you automatically like, oh yeah, the strong kid, the one eating their veggies, like they're healthy. But we forget that the symptoms of being sick is actually kind of showing that your body is able and healthy to fight sickness off, because fevers are there for a reason, and coughs and sneezing and runny nose, like they're all things that your body needs to do to, fight sickness off. And that's actually health. That when we're seeing sick kids, we never are going to say like you're never going to get sick again, but are you able to kind of combat that sickness and knock it out quickly? Like that's what we kind of want to look at with that.
Ready. So a little bit just quickly on immunology. There's a great book out there called Eat Dirt. We know that the kids that tend to have grow up with pets, cats, dogs, are playing outside barefoot, in the dirt, doing all the things, they tend to do better from an immune standpoint. So there is something to that, and not trying to be in an over-sterile environment. And in the climate of all the antibacterial soaps and different things like that, we start stripping away our natural immune resources, so to speak. And the cool thing about our immune system is it has a memory function. So if it recognizes a certain bacteria or virus, it's going to tag it, it's got its eye on you, and it's going to eradicate it so much quicker. But there's a reason why we'll have symptoms. There's a reason why we will cough or cough up phlegm, because that is an immune reflex. It is to help escort things out that should not be inside. And it is very normal to interact with viruses and bacteria. They're around us all year long. It just seems like as the weather turns cooler and we have all the holidays and all the stuff that brings and the stresses and so on, that we tend to see an increase and uptick in sicknesses going on, even though we're surrounded by it all year long. So the cool thing is we have this intelligence inside all of us. And it's very strong in our children, it's strong in us. And we have to support that, because if we are getting the sleep that we need, if we're eating nutrient dense foods, if we're moving our bodies, if we're keeping stress managed, all of these things, they all matter. Even when we're looking at posture in children, with the increase in technology, these chronic, flexed postural states, they just put more pressure on the part of the nervous system that is responsible for lower respiratory, upper respiratory. So there are a lot of factors for sure. So as parents, we have to be thinking, are we supporting or are we suppressing what the body is designed to do? So for example, when it comes to fevers, our first gut is we got to get that down right away. Well, there's a reason why we get the fever to begin with, because every virus and bacteria has a certain code on it that if the temperature gets to a certain threshold, it will eradicate whatever virus or bacteria is in there. So for some, it needs to be, 99.6, and for someone else, it could be 102.1. And yes, we should be monitoring things, but we know that that heat, the way that your body is generating to be able to support its system, it's valid. When we suppress it, we actually can prolong the sickness. So something to keep in mind. Coughing, sneezing, again, this is the body's way of getting rid of things, so we don't want to suppress it. We don't want to dry up all the mucus because it creates more inflammation, and you want to be able to express that.
Okay, so the four eyes of chronic illness. So Michelle started to touch on a little bit of this, but what do we tend to see when we have some stuff going on? We tend to get more inflamed. That can be like histamine response. Your body is sensing, that foreign material, that virus, that bacteria in the body, and it is rushing to take care of it. That can also come with imbalance. So a lot of times we do this with fevers, just like how Michelle said, like we are getting hotter so we can kill stuff. Interference. If we have interruption to how your body is perceiving the environment and how that body is going to respond to it, that's not going to help that body heal any faster. Also, and we'll get into this a little bit later in our slide deck, physical, emotional, chemical, like injuries to the body, like subluxations, that interferes with how that nervous system is going to be able to respond to the illness. So kind of how that says, like inflammation, fever, those can be a good thing. We need to kick stuff off. But the second two, where the body isn't able to do that itself as readily, that's not a good thing. So moving into, yep.
All right. We hear a lot about balance, and it's really counterbalance when it comes to the human body. And there's two sides of our immune system. We have the Th1 response and Th2. So you can think of Th1 it's trying to get things out. So this is the coughing, the sneezing, these types of things. Th2 is more suppressive in nature, and it's constantly pushing things down. And this is the realm of autoimmune, chronic allergies, things of that nature, asthma. These are all Th2. And just because we're less symptomatic does not equate to being healthy. If you've ever noticed kids with maybe the dark circles under their eyes, or maybe they always are just a little sniffly all the time, like they don't have a cold, they're just always congested or things of that nature. The intelligence of the human body, it's always watching out. And if you think of almost like a castle analogy, if we are at the top of the castle and we're looking ahead and we see invaders, we can, take care of things before they get into the castle and break down the walls. Versus if you're on the Trojan horse and, things are coming in, there is a possibility that the castle can be taken over. So that's one way to look at it. It's important to have both aspects working for you. Your body is very intelligent, as we mentioned before, and it's got this specific design where it's meant to heal and to regulate. And so being in this state of homeostasis is this monitoring, this regulation that happens. And it all starts with the brain and the nervous system. It controls the immune response. It controls every other system that we have.
So of course we're going to talk about the nervous system because that's kind of our jam. So the nervous system, that's what controls the immune system, right? Everything is controlled by that brain, by those nerves. So your vagus nerve is huge. We talk about the vagus nerve all the time in the office because not only does that help with just calming that system, making sure the parasympathetics are supposed to doing what they're supposed to be doing, those parasympathetics are huge with your immune system, with your gut, with drainage of your body, your digestion. So we're always looking to make sure like our vagus nerve, that neuro system is online and working the way that it should, because that's going to ensure that you have that balanced, appropriate response when you get sick. That's going to allow you to express those symptoms. I don't know how many times, we'll have parents come in and their kids are maybe like a little bit sniffly or like something's a little bit off. And then the next day after they get adjusted, parents will like text or call me like, hey, like they got a fever that night, like they're coughing today. What's going on? We're like, this is a good thing. It allowed their system to kind of express those symptoms to get things out, because that vagus nerve, the nerves that work with that immune system work a lot with the ears, the nose, the throat, that upper GI, just to help things flow and drain. So when we allow those nerves to do that, then we see those symptoms being able to be expressed more, and that immune system kind of kick up online the way that it's supposed to.
And as Dr. Carrie was mentioning, the vagus nerve is part of that parasympathetic nervous system, that calming brake pedal, so to speak. And the main job of the vagus nerve is to activate and regulate that immune response. So it's super, super important, located very high up in the neck. It's probably the most injured area just with childbirth alone, which is why we're very thorough with our case histories with any new pediatric patient that does come in. So we know that if that vagus nerve is stressed, it'll stall out different responses of our bodies. For example, like gut motility, we could see more constipation. Also respiratory motility. When we have the gunk that just stays stuck there versus kind of work its way down and out, it can be problematic. And not only that, I mean, if the kids aren't sleeping well, you and your significant other aren't sleeping well either. So it becomes to the detriment of the whole family dynamic, especially if it's a chronic cycle that's tough to get out of, especially when we're talking about ear infections. And again, the nerves that feed the inner and middle ear, it's also located at the very top of that neurospinal system. So the key is to make sure that things are draining properly. There are a lot of great remedies out there. Some of you maybe have even tried them, even just like the garlic oil for the ear. Maybe you're getting some elderberry syrup and upping your vitamin D, your vitamin C, your zinc. These are all outside in approaches. And so, yes, there's the more traditional medical approach. There is the more holistic and natural approach, but we also have to see how we're operating on the inside. And we know that the nerves that fire together, they wire together, meaning these patterns, they start to get imprinted into our neurology. So if it is not serving us in the best way, then one of the keys is to do a pattern interrupt.
Okay, so how do we get that interruption in the first place, that imbalance, subluxations, kind of what we're working with? So there's three things that tend to throw the body off in general, however you put it. And this can be a factor now. It can have started 5 years ago. This could have started in utero or with birth. It just depends on the history. So we have thoughts and emotions. So emotional stress. So this could be so many different things. It could be the stress that you or baby experienced while you were pregnant. This could be your birth story. This could be things like, friendships and family and school and work, and all those emotional stresses over time can cause more inflammation throughout the body, irritating that nervous system, causing subluxations. Extra inflammation in the body wears down the immune system, so we can get sick easier, right? We have, all of the holiday stresses starting to ramp up, which can link up into our chemical stresses as well. So environmental with chemical stresses, this can be medications. This can also be maybe a lot of candy, maybe a lot of pies, cookies, all that good stuff. Moderation, things are good. But when we go over that, extra inflammation, again, bringing down that immune system, putting us more into a sympathetic fight or flight stress overdrive, which again, your body is not worried about a cold when it's looking out for just, you know, it's when it's in protection mode and trying to keep you out of that. We also have physical stress. This one is, a lot more easier to wrap your head around. So lifting something heavy, bad posture over time, the birth process, which is super stressful on mom and baby, growth spurts, hitting milestones, learning how to walk, all that can cause subluxation, all that can cause interference into that nervous system as well.
And since we just covered those three different types of stress, throughout the course of your lifetime, you are in constant accumulation mode, so to speak. So we accumulate all the physical, toxic or chemical, mental, emotional stresses. And what that does is everyone has a threshold. And once we start to go past that threshold, we literally get shifted into that sympathetic fight or flight mode. So what we call that gas pedal state, which we can actually measure through the scanning technology that we use in our office, that we use on everyone from babies to grandparents. But when we're in that gas pedal state, it shuts down digestion. It shuts down things like sleep. It shuts down immune response. And when those things aren't working properly, it's hard for anything else to. We don't adapt as well. We're more crabby. It's just more difficult. And you'll notice at the bottom of that picture, those are common symptoms and challenges that people will experience when they're more on that gas pedal state. So Dr. Carrie's going to share a story of one of our practice members, and you'll see some slides on some of the scans that we do at our office.
Okay, so this is Millie, and Millie came to us at about 15 months of age. So, quick backstory. So, she was emergency C-section. Mom had been pushing for 2.5 hours, and they determined the head was stuck, so they had to do that emergency C-section. So, she came into us. The main thing was like sicknesses. Also, another challenge was sleep. She had gotten COVID a few months before starting care, I think like 3 or 4 months, and hadn't slept through the night since then. She was also pretty gassy and had some GI problems. So this little girl, again, 15 months old, had had 4 ear infections, 3 eye infections, RSV, and she had a COVID by the time she saw us. So that's a lot of stress. That's a lot of sickness. That's a lot of antibiotics on that body. So this scan that you're seeing in front of you is a thermal scan. So measuring inflammation along that nervous system. So on the scan on the left, you can see kind of more color, right? There's blues, there's greens. It's all very one-sided with a little spike to the right. So we're seeing an unbalanced system. We'd want to see kind of more back and forth. And then just that general inflammation through the system, like that tends to be more like a systemic thing. So we see that a lot with like sicknesses, chronic sicknesses. On our next scan, this was after, consistent care, a lot of calming. We're getting more back and forth, still not exactly where we want it, but it's showing that body is that changing and it's adaptable. And if we go to the next slide, mom has some feedback on the scan or on her care, which basically she wasn't getting sick nearly as often. I think between the first and the second results, like she'd start up daycare. So she was starting to get some sniffles and things like that. Again, that's okay. But she was sleeping a lot better. Gas was down. She was sleeping through the night and she wasn't getting like these big kind of symptoms like the ear infections, eye infections. She had not had any of those. And we've been seeing her, and since then, she's been getting kind of like the common colds and things like that, but her body is in such a better place to fight those sicknesses that it's been really cool to see how she's progressed this undercare. So we get a lot of questions from our parents that, are just wondering about this. So some of the common ones, what does the scan measure? I just talked about the thermal. That's one of the 3 scans. The second scan we do is an HRV, so heart rate variability. That's going to actually show kind of on the spectrum where they're at, either in the sympathetic, which is that fight or flight, anxiety being the extreme, and we have parasympathetic, which is rest, digest, chill, with almost like exhaustion being the other extreme. So it's going to show where that body is at there. It's also going to show energy reserves in the body, because ideally we want nice high energy reserves so that if we get sick, if we have a growth spurt, if some big stressor comes along, it's not knocking us onto our back. We're able to kind of get through it with a little bit more grace. The third scan that we do, commonly once our kiddos start school, like that age and up, is a EMG scan. So it's showing neurotone, how much energy is their body using just to kind of be seated and chill. Because with that, we don't want an extreme amount of muscle energy being used to do that simple movement. We also don't want kind of shut down or like hypotone in that area. And with those scans, we do that initial scan on the initial visit. And then about every 12 visits, we're redoing those scans so we can track and see how that body and that system is responding. What if my child doesn't sit still? We do see this. We can usually roll with it. The good thing is with the scans, we can kind of usually move with them to some degree. We can read books, we can watch a little video while they're getting their scans done. All 3 of them are relatively quick and simple, and we can kind of make it fun for them. Adjustments can look different depending on the age, what's going on with our newborns, because we do see kiddos like fresh out of the womb and up. So we use kind of just a gentle craniosacral technique, tonal, where we'll use just kind of fingertip type pressure. So super gentle and relaxing. We also have some instrument adjusting and different techniques that are very non-invasive, very gentle, and fun for the kiddos as well, along with being kind of very effective and efficient. How long does it take? So this could be a couple of different questions. The initial visit, we're looking at like 45 minutes to an hour. Adjustments are relatively quick. We know those kiddos aren't going to just lay there for an hour and, just let you do what you want. So adjustments, 5 to 10 minutes, and pretty in and out with that. As for results, that can vary with our care plans. They can be anywhere from 24, 36, 60 visits, depending on the goals and what's going on for our kids. Because time and repetition are huge with that nervous system. That's how the nervous system responds. But we're usually seeing some sort of change within these first few weeks of care. And most commonly, that's usually related to sleep and poops, because that's what that parasympathetic part of that nervous system does. That rest and digest, that immune system hangs out there. So that's kind of the game plan there. And then, does insurance cover it? So since we are really pediatric prenatal function focused, insurance doesn't really recognize that. Insurance is mainly looking at does your back hurt? Headaches, back pain, neck pain. They're not looking at immune system and digestion and stress levels. That's not what insurance focuses on. So us being out of insurance actually allows kind of a better care plan for you because nothing is kind of holding you back. We're able to kind of give you what you need, and we're able to work with you with payments and all that good stuff. So those are our most common questions that we tend to get.
So hopefully with some of this background on neurology, immune function, so on, the main things that we want you to keep in mind is always trust your mom gut, always trust your dad gut. You know when something's not right with your kid, and especially if it's like we're going round and round like on the hamster wheel. The key is to keep asking questions. You have your pediatrician, your provider, keep asking the questions. And if you're not getting anywhere, then, we're a great resource, for other disciplines out there. And we would love to help. We would love to be a resource for you and your family. Next is to find your tribe, whether it's other moms, dads out there that are on the same page as you, but just to have that good support system. Some of you even come to us already, and maybe you've been on the fence, about getting your child checked. So if you were looking for the sign, this is it. There's no harm in just getting your kiddo scanned to find those stuck stress patterns. And we know that the immune system isn't really fully developed until age 2. And as we referenced earlier, there's a ton of milestones. A lot of things are happening along the way. So we want to make sure that we have the energy reserves, not just for development, but to have a healthy immune response. If we don't have the reserves, we can't adapt as well. And that's where we can get into some trouble. Not to mention, yes, the obvious things that you guys know about: watching sugar intake, increasing water, having a good schedule when it comes to bedtime and things of that nature. And people will ask all the time about, different remedies, supplements, things like that. Those are great for support, but we really need to lay that foundation and make sure that that neurospinal system is firing on all cylinders. So let us help your family with individualized, customized care based on the scans, based on your goals, based on your history. And we'd love to do that for you. So anyone who's listening in, we have a special offer for you when you reach out. But I do want to open it up if there's any specific questions, because this is a topic that we talk a lot about in our office, and we could go on for a lot longer. But if you have specific questions, I do want to open it up for that.